Hey guys, and welcome back to the vlog. Wow, I can't wait to get started with this one. But before I do, I'd like to shout out to a YouTube channel called Darkness Underneath Podcast by Quentin Walker. Now, usually, I think I've complained a couple of times. Not complained, but I just never got the fact that these YouTubers that never been involved with real crime as yours truly, and they get newspaper clippings and they run with the story. Okay, this newspaper said this, and they just run with, they make a vlog out of that. Everybody from New York City at that time, we heard all these stories on the 6 o'clock news hours after it happened. But anyway, this guy Quentin's channel is a lot different. I mean, this guy is in the middle of writing a book right now, and he not only does, I mean, this guy gets 302s from the FBI, DD5s from NYPD. He uses the Freedom of Information Act to get all kinds of documents. And not only that, on Roy DeMeo, I mean, this guy has lived Roy DeMeo. I don't think his son knows him as well as Quentin does. So anyway, a shout out to his podcast. Please check it out. I mean, if it impressed me, it'll impress you. Thanks. Okay, so now, back to the Joel Rifkin story. And I want you people, especially people in law enforcement, and I'm guessing that there's probably a lot of guys out there that are ex-law enforcement, maybe even current FBI, local police, whatever. So I want to go over some of the tactics that the New York State Police used on me to get rid of me for whatever reason. And I think I know one of the reasons, but I'll get to that at the end. And I got my little notepad here because I didn't want to forget anything. Now, don't forget, when I became aware of Joel Rifkin and Mary Cathrine Williams through the news, on the 6 o'clock news, that he was linked to her and blah, 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 I immediately didn't call no state police, that's for sure. I called Jim Doherty, who at this time was a detective investigator for the Suffolk County Prosecutor's Office, DA's office. That's what he was. So I told him, because I didn't want to walk in cold on cops that didn't know me, At this time, I had 18 years of doing undercover work, being one of the highest paid confidential informants there ever was at that time. But I still didn't want to have to go and sit there and convince a bunch of cynical cops that I am who I am, and instead of going through the sarcasm and everything that goes along with it when you're trying to convince a cop of who you are. And my story was so unbelievable. But anyway, that's why Jim Doherty set up the meet, and I go in there. So let's find out the second that I went in there. Now I'm there because I want to give them information that I have, not only about Joel Rifkin, but about this other guy, Peter Bradley, that I knew was involved here. And we'll get to that in the next video when we do evidence. But right now, we're going to use the tactics. So the second I walked into the New York State Police Barracks out in Long Island, accompanied by Jim Doherty. At that time, he was an ex-New York City police officer of some 30 years, and now he was currently a detective investigator for the Suffolk County DA's office. So, as soon as I arrived, what did the state police do? Read me my rights. Now, at this time, and they know that I've been a CI for 18 years, but they have no experience, so again, they don't know what the hell they're doing. So I walk in there, boom, they hit me with my rights, and I look at Jimmy. Jimmy's looking at me like, what the hell? Prior to my walking in there, Jim Doherty had a conversations with their leader, the leader, major, whatever he was, this big, tall, stupid guy, and he's telling him all about me, and he says, it don't matter, we play hardball. That's what their commanding officer said, we play hardball. Hardball's okay to play, I guess, if you want it. If you got your suspect and you got him, you can play hardball all you want, but you get more with honey than you do with vinegar or hardball. So they read me my rights. That's got me on guard right away. And I'm looking at Jimmy, and they're pretending that he's not even there. They're just like, he's there, but he's not. He's not even there. And there must have been 10 investigators over there, New York State detectives. Then what do? They say, okay, they read me my rights as soon as I walked in front of Jimmy. And they say, okay, you can go in room 2 there. So I walk in first. The whole crowd is behind me. There's a 2-way window, a table, a chair, another chair. And on the table was a polygraph. So I walk in, I go, hey, what is this? He goes, that's a polygraph. We're going to be taking a polygraph. I went, put the brakes on. Now, who's giving me the polygraph test? A New York State detective, investigator, whatever they call them. He's going to be doing the polygraph after he just read me my rights? What the fuck? What? Are you kidding me? I said, wait a minute. When did I agree to take this test? Well, I didn't expect you to act like this. What do you mean act like this? Get me out of here. And I walk out of the room. Then Jimmy comes in, hey, what are you trying to pull here? You don't give, first of all, let's back up. First of all, any investigator worth their salt. Don't give a polygraph right away. First, they get a baseline. First, you're interviewed, your audio tape. Back then, they didn't have video, I don't think. But you audio tape somebody, and you get a storyline. Okay, this is what it is. And then you go to your subject. Now, don't forget, I'm walking in as a confidential informant. I'm not walking in as a suspect. If I'm a suspect, pal, I've been doing this 18 years. The first thing I'm going to do is I want a lawyer. I'm not talking to no cop. Okay, but I did anyway because Jimmy was there, and I figured he's going to get my back. So you get a storyline. Then you ask your subject, would you be willing to take a polygraph? Not walk somebody in. Unheard of tactics. All you guys out there in law enforcement, please comment and you'll agree with me. That's how it's done. You don't set somebody down in a polygraph, and you don't. So anyway, I back out. Let's get to Peter Bradley. So I get to Peter Bradley. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear anything about Peter Bradley. No matter how many interesting things I tell them about them, the apartment, the blood stain, the videos, the tripod, they don't want to hear anything. And where have I heard and where have I seen conduct like that from police or FBI? Where have I heard or seen that? Oh, I know. When you're trying to lock up somebody's confidential informant. So I started immediately thinking, this guy must be a snitch. Why are they doing this? Why don't they at least listen to my evidence and go out and investigate it? So they tell me, we've already looked into him. Well, wait a minute. You could not have already looked into him when I never told you stories only me and him knew. For example, when he went into the apartment, when I went into the apartment, he followed me. It was just me, him, and some girl that who the hell knows where she is. So that raised the hair on the back of my neck right there. Then, what do you suppose they start doing? They start asking me what I would refer to as accusatory questions. Hey, have you ever been in Joe Rifkin's truck? Have you ever been to his house? Have you ever been to this address and that address? Addresses that I didn't even know. And now I'm realizing I'm being treated like a suspect. They're talking to me full well knowing that I have 18 years of undercover experience with the FBI, NYPD. Now, when you work for the NYPD, you work all kinds of cases. So they should have realized that I'm streetwise. I've been to prison. They already know that because they took my mugshot and they went all over the place with it afterwards. So, yet they still talk to me like I was a crackhead off 9th Street in Alphabet City. They were talking to me like I was some piece of shit. That's what they were doing. But as mad as I was, I said to myself, I have facts. They don't know what they're talking about. And I'm just going to beat them up with facts. Okay. So we wind up. And then don't forget, this went on for 9 hours. Me and Jimmy were in that state police barracks for 9 hours. Some of the detectives knew by my body language, how I was acting, how I was speaking, and how I had no fear. Because I did nothing wrong. I didn't kill anybody. So, then what happens? Every time I bring up Peter Bradley's name, over a 9-hour period, I would watch. So now, I'm turning the tables. I'm watching them like an investigator would watch a potential suspect. And so now I'm reading their body language. And every time I said, Peter Bradley, and they were like 6 or 7. I remember we were eating pizza. We ordered pizza. The pizza came. And Peter Bradley, every one of them, this guy, and they would just drop their head. They would turn around. They would shake their head. No. How could you investigate somebody when I didn't even tell you about him? I didn't even tell you about him. So then, of course, I know I mentioned it in my last video. That then I said, when me and Jimmy finally left, I said, you know what, I'm going to go to Tom. I'm going to speak to Tom. I'm going to work this case through Tom. I can't deal with these guys. Not knowing, I knew that they were the lead investigator, but lead investigative agency. But I just thought we could go around because some of these women were found in Manhattan. That gave the DA jurisdiction. I worked for the DA and I worked for NYPD through the DA's office. So, and then, of course, everyone knows what happened then. If you didn't see the other video, I'll tell you real fast. I get wired up. I go see the detective, Tom Harkins of the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, tell him what's going on. He already spoke to Jimmy. He said, come on down, we're going to hook you up, wire you up. I go down to 9th Street. As soon as I walk in the building, it was under surveillance by New York State Police. They come up, knock on the door. I'm already wired up. They push their way in. They're knocking on the door. I'm telling the owner, Joe Leo, you don't want him in? Tell him to go away. Crack the door and tell him to go away. And he did that, and they pushed their way in. Illegal. He violated his 4th Amendment right and just went in there without a warrant. Then I go, hey, I want to talk to you. I get him outside in the hallway, lift up my shirt. I'm wired up right now. What you did there was illegal. Then they went, oh, crap. They take me, and they put me in a car, tell me to call the DA's office. Because they was thinking I was working for some media outlet or something. I call the DA's office. I put Tom on the phone. Now they're telling Tom they want that wire. Why wouldn't they? They just committed a crime on it. And Tom says, no, hop in the cab and come back down. And by the time I got to the DA's office, which was in Lower Manhattan on Hogan's Place, my friend was already in trouble. They got my friend in trouble for trying to get justice for all these victims' family. And then that's when I had to throw the towel in. He got brought up on departmental charges. They got the wire, and Peter Bradley probably got away with murder. Now, I don't know why they never investigated Peter Bradley. I don't know why, after I told them about the blood, and I don't know why. Was he a big shot confidential informant? They only wanted like the Kennedy assassination, they only wanted it to be one serial killer, close the books, because after all the victims were bad girls. And they got what they deserved. And that's a quote from Delaney, Detective Delaney. Bad girls get what they deserve. And they'd wanted to close this case out, lock them up on 3 or 4 homicides so we could never get out again. So now, in our next video, we will be talking about evidence, cold, hard evidence. And you'll find it very interesting how they ignored all the evidence. This is what they did to me to discredit me. Not to mention, I don't even know, and then I forgot the most important thing. To further discredit me, after I tried to get Tom Harkins to work the case with me, they went to the New York Daily News and told them that I was a confidential informant with my real name. That's what they did to get rid of me so I couldn't work, and that plan worked. They told the New York Daily News, and we'll put another quote up here. You can see the quote, how they did it, that they cautioned that the paid informant from Suffolk County could be embellishing part of his story to gain notoriety. To gain notoriety as a confidential informant. I was working a major drug dealer. That's why I was there in the first place, but they didn't give a crap. And 5 kilos of cocaine went on the streets of New York City because of them. God knows how many people OD'd or what because of them, New York State Police. Puh. That's what I think of you, New York State Police. Okay, well anyway, I'm going to sign off for now. We're going to do the other vlog about the evidence and how they just ignored it. And I want to thank you guys for staying to the end. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Thank you guys, and God bless.